The story begins with a boy who has a stepsister. However, their lives don't change in a big way, unlike stories where step-siblings fall in love. In this story, things are different. One sunny morning, Yuta's dad tells him that he's getting married again. And Yuuta, who hopes his dad can move on from the past, gives his permission for the marriage. What surprises Yuuta is when he finds out that he's going to have a beautiful stepsister, and they'll meet in the evening. That night, Yuuta finally meets his new stepmom and stepsister, Ayase Saki. It turns out, Saki is the same age as Yuuta, and they even go to the same school, so they quickly become close. Saki suggests they make a deal not to expect anything from each other, and Yuuta agrees with the plan. Later, while Yuta's dad was cleaning the house before his new wife and stepdaughter arrived, Yuuta took Saki to her room. Saki was surprised by how big the room was. In her old apartment, her room was small, and she had to share it with her mom, taking turns to sleep because their schedules were different. Saki went to school in the morning, while her mom worked at night. At that time, Saki asked Yuuta not to speak formally to her, since they were the same age and now siblings. Yuuta agreed, and it became clear that Saki was an introvert who only had one friend. They continued tidying up the house together. Since they went to the same school, Yuuta planned to act like he didn't know Saki at school, but Saki said it wasn't necessary. The story continues when Yuuta was working part-time. His senior, Yuri, noticed a woman's perfume on him and realized that Yuuta now had a pretty stepsister. Yuri gave him some advice and encouragement about how to deal with the situation. Later, Yuuta noticed that Saki looked confused when he greeted her. This was because she rarely communicated with her mom in their old home due to their different routines. Saki had to get used to this new situation. After that, Yuuta let her use the bathroom and wished her good night. The next morning, Saki thanked Yuuta for preparing bathwater for her the night before. However, she asked him not to do it again to avoid wasting water. The scene continues at school when Yuta's friends warn him that Saki doesn't like to get involved in other people's lives, especially when it comes to romance. They tell Yuuta not to fall in love with Saki, but Yuuta already knew that. His friends also mention rumors going around about Saki, saying she sells herself to men because of her appearance cause she dyes her hair, wears earrings, and often stays away from others. Saki also turned down the popular basketball player's date requests, which made his friends believe the rumors even more. Later, during gym class, Saki was sitting alone, listening to music. Soon after, Yuuta approached her, and they realized they both joined the badminton club because they didn't enjoy socializing much and felt more comfortable being alone. Saki only had one close friend, Narasaka, who had red hair. The reason Saki didn't hang out with other friends was that she wanted to spend more time by herself. After school, Yuuta ran into his stepmom, who was heading to work as a bartender. She had prepared food for both Yuuta and Saki and asked him to look after Saki before leaving. Later, while Yuuta was studying, Saki came in and greeted him. She asked Yuuta about easy part-time jobs with high pay because she wanted to earn money without spending too much time. Yuuta explained that it wasn't realistic, and the only way to make that much money would be by doing something risky, hinting at the rumors about Saki. He told her to value herself more, but Saki argued that wanting to be independent and make a lot of money was also a way of valuing herself. Saki knew Yuuta worked part-time at a library. She explained that her flashy appearance was her way of keeping people at a distance. Saki found it strange that Yuuta, despite being smart and simple, wasn't interested in women and preferred to live alone. It turned out that both of them used their appearance to stay away from others. Because of this, they both felt the need to be strong enough to live independently by working part-time. Yuuta promised to help Saki find a job, maybe with his senior's help, and in return, Saki agreed to make miso soup for Yuuta every day. The next morning, Saki surprised Yuuta by making breakfast, even though the deal was only for dinner. This made both Yuuta and his stepdad very happy. At work, Yuuta asked his senior, Yuri, about job openings for his stepsister. However, Yuri suggested that Saki should rely more on her family instead of trying to live on her own. That night, Yuuta told Saki what Yuri said, but Saki encouraged Yuuta to get closer to Yuri. Saki still insisted on being independent because she couldn't rely on Yuuta or her family. After dinner, when Yuuta was about to go to bed, he found a gift hanging on his bedroom door. The next day, Yuuta saw Saki crossing the street, but Saki looked like she was about to do something dangerous. Yuuta got really angry because even though they were just step-siblings, Saki was still his family. That's where their story truly begins. After taking a shower, he was shocked to see Saki had brought a friend to their house. It turned out that Narasaka had suddenly come over, and it seemed like she already knew a lot about Saki and Yuta's relationship. Earlier, Saki had tried calling Yuuta, but since Yuuta didn't have a cell phone, Saki used the home phone. Unfortunately, Yuuta didn't pick up because he was in the shower. To make communication easier in the future, Saki suggested they exchange phone numbers. The next morning, they had breakfast with the family. Afterward, Saki and Yuuta went to school, looking really close. However, throughout the day, Saki seemed worried, while Yuuta kept giving her advice and promised to help her solve her problems. Yuta's caring attitude touched Saki because she felt truly understood. After school, Yuuta accidentally saw some women's underwear, and Saki, noticing Yuta's shocked reaction, felt embarrassed and quickly ran away. The next day during gym class, Narasaka approached Yuuta and asked why Saki seemed so sad. Yuuta then tried to figure out what was bothering Saki. During dinner at home, Yuuta told Saki that he hadn't found the part-time job she wanted yet. He suggested that Saki think about other options so she wouldn't feel disappointed. That night, since their parents were coming home late, Saki wore something revealing and approached Yuuta. A few days earlier, Saki had thought Yuuta might be dangerous, but now she realized how caring he was. Seeing how close Yuuta was with Narasaka also made Saki believe that Yuuta wasn't dangerous, and she began to develop feelings for him. The next day, Yuuta felt like his stepsister was a stranger since they weren't related by blood. However, after living together for a month, Yuuta started to see that Saki wasn't a stranger anymore. That day, Saki asked Yuuta to help her study modern literature because she had a big test coming up and she didn't want to get another low score. Saki didn't want to bother her parents, so she tried to study on her own. As Yuuta looked over Saki's answers, he found some mistakes and explained the things she didn't understand. He told Saki to imagine romance stories in modern times and gave her some advice. Since Saki was good at history, Yuuta suggested that she memorize the background of each character. He also encouraged Saki to study harder. Slowly, Saki began to understand modern literature better. The next day, Yuuta told Saki to focus on her studies while he made some bread. At school, Yuuta was very serious about helping Saki learn, so he looked up tips on how to teach effectively online. Suddenly, Narasaka came by and mentioned that she never had to retake any of her exams. Knowing Narasaka was a good student, Yuuta asked her about effective study methods for Saki. Narasaka recommended studying while listening to music to improve concentration, but Yuuta was confused about which type of music would work best. After coming home from work, Yuuta asked his senior for advice on how to help Saki study better. His senior suggested that Saki listen to music to help her concentrate and even recommended some songs that she often listened to. When Yuuta got home, he immediately shared the suggestion with Saki, who was excited to hear that he had such a helpful senior. Yuuta, however, felt it was unfair that he could only help Saki in this small way, especially since she had helped him so much. The next morning, Yuuta woke up late and didn't see Saki anywhere. Their mom told him that Saki was still in her room, probably studying. While Yuuta was at work, his senior, Shirori, brought a book that was being made into a movie. Shirori invited Yuuta to watch the movie with her, especially since it was the last showing that night. Yuuta agreed and decided to let his parents know that he would be home late. However, Shirori questioned why Yuuta didn't tell Saki about his plan, considering they had just become siblings. After buying popcorn, they both sat down and waited for the movie to start. The film was about a boy who stole food and met a mysterious woman who gave him a violin. The woman then revealed that she only had 6 months to live. A few days later, people started searching for her, and the boy tried to help her escape. 6 months later, just as predicted, the woman passed away. After finishing the movie, they headed home. Before that, they stopped at a vending machine to get some drinks. There, Shirori noticed Yuta's kindness and sincerity, and she believed that Yuuta would become well-known one day. Suddenly, Shirori wanted to tell him something important, that she only had 6 months left to live. But Yuuta responded in a way that was similar to the boy in the movie they had just watched, which made Shirori feel emotional. After that, they continued their way home. Before parting, Yuuta thanked Shirori for the music suggestion that helped Saki focus on her studies. Then, the scene shifted to the boy in the movie, meeting a woman who looked like the girl from before, and they played music together. The next day, Saki asked Yuuta who had covered her with a blanket the night before. Yuuta admitted it was him, because he didn't want his sister to get sick before her exams. Saki also asked about the movie Yuuta watched with Shirori. Yuuta explained the plot and suggested that Saki watch it after her exams. However, Saki misunderstood and thought that Yuuta went on a date with Shirori. Yuuta quickly clarified that they were just co-workers and nothing more. Even so, seeing how much he read books made Saki want to follow in his footsteps. At work, Yuuta noticed Saki looking confused. When Shirori realized that was Yuta's stepsister, she got excited. Soon after, Yuuta went over to them, making sure Shirori didn't distract Saki too much since she still needed to study for her exams. There, Saki asked Yuuta to recommend a good book for her. After that, Shirori kept bringing up Saki in their conversations and even suggested that Yuuta should date his stepsister. However, Yuuta refused, saying that Saki was his sister, even though they were only step-siblings. One morning, Yuta's friends told him about a rumor that he was close to Narasaka. Yuuta denied the gossip, explaining that they were just regular friends who often studied together. His friends believed him and even offered to give him advice on love if he ever needed it. After school, Yuuta ran into Narasaka and Saki. Narasaka invited Yuuta to walk home together since she was also stopping by Saki's house. It turned out that Narasaka was coming over to study with Saki. A little while later, while they were studying, Yuuta came in and offered to cook, telling Saki to stay focused on her lessons. Narasaka joked that Yuuta was like a good husband. But soon, Yuuta struggled with the cooking, and luckily, Narasaka stepped in to help, telling Saki to study on her own for a bit. After a while, Narasaka asked Yuuta about his relationship with Saki. Yuuta reassured Narasaka that they didn't have any special relationship, even though they weren't blood-related siblings. However, Narasaka noticed that Saki had been paying more attention to her appearance and using more perfume than before. Yuuta explained that it was normal since they lived together as opposite genders. Narasaka tried to shift the focus by mentioning that Saki was watching them. Yuuta thought it was probably because Narasaka was talking too loudly. That evening, Saki tasted Yuta's cooking and found it surprisingly delicious. Yuuta then asked how Saki felt about her study methods. Saki admitted she wasn't sure if she was doing it right, but promised to keep working hard to get good grades. The next day, Yuuta went about his usual routine, from school to work, even dealing with a difficult customer. As a senior, Yuta's co-workers were worried about how tired he seemed. When Yuuta got home, he quickly rushed to bring in the laundry before the heavy rain could soak it. After he finished, he saw a news report saying that the rain in their city had caused some areas to flood. Hearing this, Yuuta became worried about Saki, who hadn't come home yet and wanted to check on her. His worry kept growing, so he grabbed an umbrella and went out to pick her up. But to his surprise, they met in the elevator. Yuuta was really anxious, thinking Saki might have been upset about getting a bad grade and had been crying somewhere. However, she thanked Yuuta and told him she got a 94 on the test, while Yuuta got a 96. As a way of thanking him, Saki told Yuuta to ask for anything he wanted, but all Yuuta asked for was for Saki to make dinner. She then asked if Yuuta always relied on older people, like a senior, the only person he seemed to trust. Yuuta explained that they just worked together often. Hearing this, Saki told him to rely on her too, just like he did with his co-workers. Hearing that Yuuta agreed to depend on Saki when it came to household matters. Summer vacation arrived, and as usual, Yuuta spent his break working. On that day, Yuuta accidentally saw someone enter the staff room. A little while later, the manager came by and introduced a new employee, and it was Saki. Then, we are taken to a flashback in Saki's mind. Saki felt really happy when Yuuta helped her study and get good grades. But that feeling changed when she imagined Yuuta walking with another girl, which kept her awake all night. She was also surprised when she learned that her favorite music came from Yuta's senior at work. Soon after, Saki asked her mom where Yuuta was, and her mom said he had gone out with a friend. Saki was confused why Yuuta didn't tell her and started thinking that maybe he didn't like her. This made her feel upset and worried. That night, Saki planned to greet Yuuta when he came home, but she fell asleep in the living room. The next morning, Saki felt calm because Yuuta had kindly placed a blanket over her. The next day, Saki visited Yuta's workplace, not to buy a book, but just to see his senior. Saki was amazed to see that Yuta Sr. was not only beautiful, but also very sweet, and she seemed like a perfect match for Yuuta. While there, Saki noticed a job opening that caught her eye. Even though it wasn't an easy or high-paying job, Saki was still unsure about whether to apply. The following day, Saki felt happy because Yuuta was so thoughtful, making sure she could focus on studying. After her exams, Saki was overjoyed with her good grades, even though Yuuta still scored higher. During the summer break, Saki decided to apply for a job as a library assistant, but she hesitated to tell Yuuta about it. However, she knew that sooner or later, Yuuta would find out. Saki also felt confused about her feelings, as she often wrote about Yuuta in her diary. Shortly after, Yuuta learned about Saki's decision and felt relieved that she had been accepted for the job. The scene shifts to a moment when they are eating together. Saki's and Yuta's parents told them to start calling each other by their names. They also knew that both of their kids were working at the same place. Their parents reminded them that the summer break would be filled with work. But their dad still encouraged them to focus on their studies and mentioned that there were no plans to go on vacation with friends. Later, Saki went to Yuuta while he was studying and told him that she wouldn't be going out with Narasaka during the summer break, even though Narasaka still wanted to invite them on a trip. Yuuta agreed, saying that he didn't like going out with people he wasn't close to because he preferred being alone. The scene then showed them at work. At that time, Yuuta and his senior were happy to see Saki serving customers with a warm attitude and learning quickly. However, Saki still made some mistakes, and Yuuta was always ready to help her when she struggled. Saki was still inexperienced. As in the library, every book had to be organized by release date, so she had to memorize each one. On their way home, Saki noticed that summer was coming to an end because many stores were starting to sell fall clothes. However, Yuuta didn't really understand fashion, which made Saki a little disappointed because he didn't notice her new clothes. The next day, while their dad was fixing the broken AC, Saki's mom shared a memory about how little Saki used to hate the heat and always asked for ice cream every summer. But this changed when she entered middle school. Even though Saki had grown and changed for the better, her mom still missed how she used to be. Yuuta remembered that Saki once said her mom worked very hard. Later, Yuuta got a phone call from a friend inviting him to meet up. At the cafe, his friend mentioned that Yuuta, Saki, Narasaka, and others were going to the pool. However, Yuuta was confused since he didn't know about these plans. After work, Yuuta wanted to ask Saki about the pool trip. Saki was surprised that he knew about it and suspected that Narasaka told him. Yuuta explained that he had heard it from his friend and didn't know Narasaka had planned to invite him. He also added that he didn't even have Narasaka's number. Since Yuuta wasn't planning on going, Saki decided not to go to the pool either, feeling a bit jealous of Narasaka. We then see a flashback of little Saki, who loved ice cream and going to the pool. Back in the present, Yuuta asked his mom if Saki would be okay with going out. His mom jokingly suspected that he wanted to go on a date with Saki, but Yuuta denied it, reminding her that they were step-siblings. In truth, Yuuta was just worried that Saki was too focused on her studies and work, so he wanted to take her out to relax. His mom understood and encouraged Yuuta to cheer Saki up. In the bedroom, Yuuta wanted to talk to Saki about the pool, but Saki refused, saying she didn't have time. Yuuta then changed his mind and asked for Narasaka's number from Saki, but Saki refused to give it without Narasaka's permission. A few days later, after returning from his lessons, Yuuta walked home with Shirori, who was still upset with her teacher. To relieve stress, Shirori kept teasing Yuuta. However, Saki saw them, and from that moment, her relationship with Yuuta became a little strained. At home, while Yuuta was looking for food, he accidentally ran into Saki, who had just returned. Even though things were a bit tense between them, Saki still worried about Yuuta, and Yuuta showed he cared by giving her iced coffee. During this moment, Yuuta brought up the pool and Narasaka's number. With a pouty face, Saki agreed to give him the contact. But Yuuta explained that he wasn't really interested in getting Narasaka's number or going to the pool. Instead, he wanted to take Saki on a vacation together. Their mom had already mentioned how much Saki loved going to the pool, so there had to be another reason why she was refusing. Feeling confused, Saki wrote down Narasaka's number and quickly left to return to her room. The next day, Saki woke up late because she had only fallen asleep around 6:30 in the morning. Yuuta didn't mind, knowing that Saki needed some time for herself. When Saki offered to make food for Yuuta, he stopped her and said he would cook for her instead, telling her to sit and relax. This was the first time Saki had stayed up so late, so she quietly agreed. After breakfast, Saki was surprised that Yuuta made her favorite meal, and it's bread with meat, which was actually suggested by their mom. After eating, Saki honestly admitted that she had changed her mind and would go to the pool. The reason Saki couldn't sleep the night before was because she was thinking about Narasaka's offer to go to the pool. However, there was another problem because they would run into some workers on the day they were supposed to go. Yuuta suggested that Saki swap work shifts with another employee to avoid this issue. On their way to work, Saki suddenly apologized for her bad mood the day before. She realized she had broken one of their rules about not hiding anything from each other. Yuuta was shocked when Saki asked if he and Shiroori were dating. Yuuta denied it, but Saki thought Shiroori was very kind, caring, beautiful, and had a great sense of humor. Saki felt confused about why she was even encouraging Yuuta to date Shiroori, but despite her feelings, their relationship returned to normal. Next, we see a flashback of when Saki first started to have feelings for Yuuta. She was impressed by how attentive and thoughtful Yuuta was in every situation. However, when she accidentally saw him with Shiroori, her feelings of jealousy surfaced. Saki felt insecure about herself, thinking Shiroori was really beautiful, while she saw herself as the bad kid. When Yuuta invited Saki to go to the pool, she refused at first. However, seeing Yuta's disappointed expression reminded Saki of a childhood memory when she played with a kid at the beach with her mom. This memory made Saki change her mind and agree to go to the pool. On the way to the pool, Saki remembered her past vacations with her mom. When they arrived at the pool, Saki, who wasn't very comfortable around people, felt a bit out of place, while Yuuta easily got along with others. This might be one reason why Saki liked him. She admired how Yuuta always made sure others had fun, even though he didn't want to be the center of attention. That day was also the first time Yuuta saw how beautiful Saki really was. From Yuta's perspective, he realized that he had never had a close relationship with any girl, possibly because of his parents' divorce. He also hadn't experienced love until he met Saki. But now, he felt confused about his feelings for his stepsister. After leaving the pool, Yuuta had gotten closer to Narasaka, and they had exchanged contact information. Yuuta appreciated how Narasaka organized the pool outing, and this made Saki happy since Narasaka was her friend. There, Saki thanked Narasaka for convincing her to go to the pool. Suddenly, they heard fireworks, and Saki used this moment to tell Yuuta that he was a wise person and that she was proud of him. This seemed like the perfect opportunity for them to confess their feelings. However, when Saki called Yuuta her brother, his feelings were crushed. The moment could have led to them expressing their emotions, but things became complicated since they were step-siblings, leaving them both confused about their growing feelings for each other. The next day, both of their parents took time off to spend together at home. However, Saki asked for permission to go out, as she wanted to forget her feelings, which she always wrote in her diary. She didn't want to ruin her parents' happiness. Although it was difficult, Saki hoped that what she was doing now could be the start of something better in the future. When Yuuta woke up later, his mom thanked him for inviting Saki to the pool and told him how proud she was of him as Saki's older brother. While showing him some of Saki's favorite things, they were surprised to see that Saki had just come home with her hair cut short. Saki changed her appearance to show she was serious about being a good stepsister. By throwing away her diary, she hoped to get rid of any troubling thoughts. Saki believed that with her family, she could live as a normal girl and play her role as the younger sibling. After class, some friends planned to go to karaoke. When Narasaka invited Saki, she refused, saying she needed to finish some assignments. Meanwhile, a boy named Shinjo seemed interested in Saki. Later, when Saki got home from school, she met her mom, who wanted to talk about the upcoming parent-teacher meeting. Saki's parents already knew that they were keeping their sibling relationship a secret at school. Her mom explained that Saki's dad had been very busy recently and wouldn't be able to attend the meeting with Yuuta. Instead, her mom would go. At first, she wanted to schedule the meeting on a different day, but she hesitated because she couldn't take too much time off work. If the meeting happened on the same day, their sibling status might be revealed to their classmates. After school, Yuta's mom told him about the upcoming parent-teacher meeting. She said she would attend since his dad was too busy. Yuuta was surprised because his mom planned to go on a different day, which made him worried. When he tried to ask Saki about it, she had to rush to work, leaving Saki thinking that maybe Yuuta hadn't fully accepted her mom yet. That night, when Saki returned home from work, Yuuta had already prepared dinner. They used this time to talk about the parent-teacher meeting. During their conversation, they realized that keeping their sibling relationship a secret might have been selfish. Saki also expressed her concern about her mom's health since she worked so hard. In the end, they agreed to schedule the meeting on the same day. After cleaning up the dinner table, Saki's feelings for Yuuta resurfaced, but they both knew they had to control their emotions to avoid ruining their parents' happiness. The next day, Yuuta told his dad about the new plan for the parent-teacher meeting. However, Yuuta was speechless when his dad mentioned that his mom wanted to be accepted as family by Yuuta. This made Yuuta realize his mistake. At school, Yuuta finally told his friends that Saki was his stepsister. His friends felt bad for speaking badly about Saki before, but Yuuta admitted it was his fault for not telling them earlier. In Saki's class, they were planning a vacation, but Saki preferred to focus on her studies. Shinjo, who wanted to get closer to her, suggested they study together at Narasaka's house, and everyone, including Saki, agreed. When Yuuta saw Saki with her friends at the shoe lockers, he felt happy because Saki was starting to open up and talk to others. At work, Shirori kept teasing Yuuta, saying he must feel lonely without his stepsister around. Shirori offered to listen to Yuta's complaints, but Yuuta firmly stated that they were siblings and could never have romantic feelings for each other. Shirori then told him about an open campus event at her university, where she was sure Yuuta would be surrounded by pretty girls. However, Yuuta declined because Shiori's school was an all-girls university. While organizing books, Yuuta accidentally ran into a girl named Fujinami, whom he had met during summer lessons. Their meeting was brief. After dinner with their dad, Saki prepared a meal for Yuuta and found his behavior a little strange. Saki was trying her best to be a good sister, but she also had to hide her true feelings, fearing she might regret it for the rest of her life if she confessed. On the day of the parent-teacher meeting, Saki's mom, who had just returned from work, wanted to take a short nap, but was worried about oversleeping. Her dad offered to wake her up, but Saki stopped him since he also had work to do. At school, Yuuta met Narasaka in the library. While Yuuta waited for his turn, Saki went home to wake up her mom. There, Narasaka asked Yuuta again if he liked Saki. Yuuta said no, because they were siblings. However, Narasaka was confused because there was another boy who liked Saki, and she didn't know who to support. Yuuta suggested that Narasaka ask Saki directly. When Yuta's turn came, the teacher praised his hard work and said that Narasaka had a good chance of getting into a top university in Tokyo. The teacher also complimented Yuta's mom for taking such good care of him, and Yuuta nodded in agreement, which made his mom really happy. Outside, Saki saw how close Yuuta and his mom were, and it made her feel happy too. When it was Saki's turn to talk with the teacher initially thought Saki was a troublemaker because of her appearance. However, that assumption was wrong cause Saki just had a unique style. Then, Saki shared her plan to work while studying in college, and the teacher suggested she applied at Tsukunomiya, a prestigious all-girls university that offered great job opportunities. Saki considered the advice, and her mom supported her decision, feeling proud of both of her children. Later, when visiting Tsukunomiya, Saki accidentally ran into Shirori, who was excited and immediately offered to give her a tour. They met a professor named Kudo, who invited Saki to her office after hearing that something was bothering her. In Kudo's office, the professor discussed Saki's issues with her stepbrother, which Shirori had told her about. Kudo directly asked Saki if she was in love with Yuuta, which made Saki uncomfortable. Understanding psychology, Kudo quickly changed the subject, asking why Saki came to the campus. Saki explained that she wanted to be an excellent student and believed she could become as smart as the others. Kudo realized that Saki had two sides to her personality and was trying not to show her weaknesses. There, Kudo advised Saki to handle her feelings carefully, leaving her quiet. Afterward, she joined the open campus event. Switching to Yuuta, he accidentally ran into Fujinami at the library. At first, Fujinami thought Yuuta wanted to confess his feelings, but Yuuta quickly denied that assumption. Fujinami then invited Yuuta to have lunch with her. While at the supermarket, Fujinami revealed that she was different because she attended night school. She asked Yuuta what he thought about that, and Yuuta responded with a positive attitude, which surprised Fujinami, as she didn't expect him to be so optimistic. When they were heading home, they agreed to meet again after their lessons on the weekend at a restaurant. At home, Saki told Yuuta about her experience at the university, which surprised Yuuta, especially when Saki mentioned that Shirori studied at a prestigious all-girls school and that one of the professors knew about her issues. Saki decided to try to get into Tsukunomiya University, while Yuuta shared his story about meeting a girl at his lessons and their plans to meet again. Both of them felt confident that everything in their lives would be okay. They hoped to become normal siblings by the time they were 17. While studying together, Saki realized that all challenges could be overcome by helping each other. For example, when Saki was confused about her lessons, she asked her friends for help, which made it easier for her to understand. This reminded Saki that life couldn't be lived alone without support from others. Later, Saki and Shinjo went to buy food for their friends. However, on their way, Yuuta saw them having coffee with Fujinami. Seeing Yuuta looking confused, Fujinami realized something was bothering him. There, Yuuta admitted that he had fallen in love with someone he shouldn't and didn't know how to forget those feelings. Back to Saki, she was shocked when Shinjo confessed his feelings for her. However, Saki couldn't betray her own feelings for Yuuta, so she gently turned him down. She remembered the professor's advice to protect those feelings because they were her true emotions. Then, we switched to Yuuta, who was with Fujinami, looking at the city from the top of the building. Fujinami opened up about her past, comparing her experience to Yuta's feeling of being ignored. Fujinami had lost both of her parents in an accident, and no one wanted to adopt her. Luckily, her aunt took her in and reminded her never to give up on life. This advice gave Yuuta the courage to share his hidden feelings, but he also realized the importance of not hoping too much to avoid getting hurt. The next day, before heading to school, Yuuta mentioned that he had seen Saki with her friends. Yet at that time, he felt a strong urge to express his feelings to Saki. Saki was surprised but thought maybe Yuuta was just jealous of seeing her with another boy. However, Yuuta insisted that he truly liked Saki. This confession left Saki speechless, and she went to her room to think. Worried, Yuuta followed her and tried to explain. At first, Saki refused to open the door, but eventually, she realized her feelings and invited him into her room, where she hugged him. Both of them felt overwhelmed by their emotions. Saki tried to comfort Yuuta, reminding them that they would carry this burden together. Even though Saki was happy to hear Yuta's confession, they agreed to keep their feelings a secret for the sake of their parents' happiness. Saki wanted them to continue acting like normal siblings in front of others. In an emotional moment, Saki feared these feelings might never come again, and Yuuta agreed to protect their emotions and each other. The anime ends. The moral lesson from this anime is don't fall in love with your stepsister just because she helped you pass your literature test. It won't make your grades any better.